Hello everybody, welcome back to the collaboration between Boks Office and Coco. You can catch Coco on their own channel on YouTube. We're here to do the second part of the collaboration in Australia, Sydney. Bench one, what? Bench one, pick one.
Drop
one. Whoever drop one with a prof here. Thanks guys for having me here. It's time to open the Boks Office. Sorry, before I mention that, Skalkberger and Jean de Villiers in Cape Town, looking very serious like two bodyguards there, but it's good. Scaler, how was the vibe back home during the game?
Yeah, Shim, it was good. It was an early start for us. You know, what time was kickoff? 6:30 in the morning?
I had a 3:30 call time in studio.
So it was, there was no beers from my part until afterwards. But like we were a little bit nervous. The Brisbane voodoo was there for us. And then we had the change of Ergis Snyman. Peter Steph de Toey moved to 5 lock for the first time in ages. And how good did he play on the weekend? And the Boks were dominant. So from our point of view, early morning get up, but like it was quite a stress-free watch because the Boks were dominant in so many facets of the game against the Wallabies. To be honest, I think was a little bit off from what they were expected to bring. You know, they were up for they wanted to have the physical element to their game. They wanted to compete at the breakdown, disrupt the Boks rhythm on attack, but unfortunately for them, not this weekend.
Guys, I'll let you guys off with the rugby. Let's talk about touring in South Africa.
Oof.
Okay, you mentioned Cafe Caprice in the first segment. You mentioned Taboo in Joburg. Gets your favorite spot there?
Club Med. No, not Club Med.
No, La
Med. That used to rock well before Caprice when I first started.
Used to get the wheelbarrows full of what were they? Savannah dries?
No. Early on were Hunters dry.
Hunters dry,
Yes.
of course.
They were delicious. That was good. That's how you used to get over jet lag. So we'd arrive in early Sunday, bit of a stretch, straight to La Med.
Yeah. Joe Cool's in Durban was also not a bad option.
Yeah, they're all pretty good.
Yeah, I don't know if I've had a bad night in South Africa.
Well, Shimmy, we do a segment on our show, and it's called Holiday Swoops Hotspots. And he goes through all these spots and tells people what time to get there, what to drink. Are they all good spots? Are you happy with those?
It's a tidy little itinerary, Prof, I've got to tell you.
There was one I wasn't certain. There was a Maverick.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know what you're talking about there.
I don't know that one.
Yeah, neither. Drew knows about the Grand. You want to run us through the Grand, is it?
No, you're thinking of the ranch.
Oh, right, the ranch.
Yeah.
Where's that? Where are these places? I've never heard of them.
Neither.
I'm not sure.
Good actually, buffet.
Is it? Where?
I'm pretty sure I've seen you there.
Hard
to say. Mistaken identity. And Taboo in Joburg, good spot. I think it's closed now.
Is it?
Yeah,
that's
I think
a shame.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. I mean, we've had.
That's where Stephen Moore met his wife now.
That's right.
Yeah.
At Taboo.
They first met there after one of the test matches, and now they're together. I think 2 or 3 kids.
Yeah, that
living
moved,
the life in Brisbane.
That was pretty quick. I think she was on the same flight home.
Smooth
doesn't muck around.
Nah, Smooth, he knows what he's doing.
He does.
Yeah, I did a function with Tota Kefu, and he spoke about Durban and the environment after the game, how they'd send the team bus off with the luggage and all that, and they just walk around having braais with people and everything.
Kings Park, yeah. I mean, that was one of the great things when you first go over in Super Rugby. You play at Kings Park in Durban, and then, as you say, all the stuff would go home, and you just basically walk up and down the fields. It's what is there, about 5 or 6 fields on the outside of Kings Park? Well, at least there was back in the day, and it's just filled with different supporters having their braais, like tailgating, but after the game. And they'd just be like, "Hey, come over here, come and have a beer. This is my daughter."
Is that a Canadian accent? Is that a Canadian accent?
He went to an international school, this guy.
So did you used to circle in the calendar, look, there's our 3 weeks in South Africa, we're really going to rip in here and have a good time? Was that your favourite when you were playing Super Rugby?
Well, it was. You almost wanted it earlier in the season because it really brought the group together. Because when you're away, you're spending more time with each other. You're going out and you're having social experiences, and it wasn't just sort of on the drink. It was the safaris and it was the diving with the sharks and all the other things that kind of give you sort of lifetime sort of memories and bonds with each other. And so you definitely wanted it closer to the start of the season, so because it always brought you tighter.
I think also there's so many cool things like Drew was saying to do outside of rugby. Over there, like when you go to New Zealand, it's almost like less to do than in Australia. So it's like when we get to South Africa, no, but you've got like even your safari parks, you're diving like with the great white sharks, even free diving in Durban, where you don't have a cage and you just jump in the water with sharks, all that stuff.
I remember that.
Wait, no, hold on, no, let's not. When did you swim with sharks and without a cage in Durban?
We did it in Durban. Drew was the first one pushed off.
Yes. So this was just before. What year was it that we beat the Boks in Bloemfontein the first time in
2010?
2010.
That was a kick. Someone.
Yeah, Curly Bill.
Yeah, got
Curly
the kick
Bill.
from the right-hand side. Yeah.
And so I organised it with this this shark diving group, and they said every team that's done this has always won their next game. I was like, perfect. Well, I mean, we're only facing 47 years of history, but let's do it. And we're about 8 kilometres offshore, and as Git said, no cages and all these sort of black tips. And they said it's only black tip sharks, but we might get the odd tiger kind of swim through. And I'm like, well, that seems like a little bit sort of nonchalant. It's a fucking tiger shark. But anyway, we did it. And after a little while, we had the honey badger in the team, and he was grabbing a dorsal fin of a shark, just going around like we're at SeaWorld. I was like, all right, this is probably enough for me. I'm out. And then a lot of us got a bit seasick.
But you were the first one to go in.
Nick Cummings.
Yeah, Drew was the first one to go in, and he was facing the back, still looking to put his goggles on. And no one wanted to go in first because we didn't really trust it. There's no cage. Yeah. So we've just pushed him. And as he's gone in, he shrieked, he's screaming like he's around there just like pedaling for a bit, and then it came good.
Yeah, but after I was sort of swimming out, I was saying swim out to the bait thing in the middle, and then they started throwing a couple of pilchards and sardines at me. I'm like...
No, that was me throwing the pilchards and sardines.
We're not at SeaWorld here.
Scarlett, JDV,
did you say...
Oh, you go.
We did the same before the British and Irish Lions test in 2009. Before the Durban test match, so we do a team building, and same thing, you know, it's a relatively big series, and they drive us down what is on the north coast, they know about 8 k's into the deep sea. Okay, jump off, you see the sharks just jumping out there. And it's like, a little bit risky, guys.
Yeah, I was also firstly, I was in a boat with no swimmers, non-swimmers. They were sitting there, not even putting their goggles on. So I said, like, I'll have, as long as Peter de Villiers picks me, if I lose a finger, a digit, he must pick me for the first test match. Right? I went straight down. The scary thing is, like, I swam down to the bottom and I was looking up and there was like 60 sharks. So like, I was petrified getting back up to the boat.
It's amazing, guys, how... When you talk about Lamed and Taboo and all these places, firstly it shows our age because all those places are closed.
Yeah, Lamed is bungalow now.
But also, you know, your experiences of traveling in South Africa, Drew, how you said, no, it brings the team together, you know, a bit of team building, going on tour, spending time together, going out. And I mean, we did exactly the same. And gets also, like, over time, we realized that the only way to get through jet lag is actually arriving in, in our case in Sydney, and going out that first night and making it as late as possible, having a couple of drinks, and then getting in bed like 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. So I can remember getting kicked out of in Manly at the
Manly Wharf.
Yeah, gee, you must have been incredibly pissed. They don't kick anyone out there. But that's also my problem now with the current guys. Not even the ones that get to play international still get the opportunity to go to South Africa, but from Super Rugby, like the experiences that these boys are missing out on now because South Africa is not involved. It's a little sad, I reckon.
Yeah, but I'd also question their intent to recover as well as we did back in the day. You know what I mean? Like, they're probably getting to Cape Town and jumping in the pool and then getting in the cot, you know, belly to the moon.
No, they need to get on the beers, don't
they? Till 1 or 2 a.m, like Jean said.
And then just stay up the next day and then you're good.
What are your hotspots, boys, in Australia? Scarlett?
We normally came from New Zealand, so we built up quite a big thirst. And then we first stayed at Manly in Sydney. So then we completed the Manly Wharf. John de Villiers, got bounced and then got kicked out, changed his clothes, put some shorts on, and the guys, he let him in and then recognized the same bloke doing the same stupid dance moves, got bounced the second time. And then we moved to Coogee Beach, and the Coogee Beach Bay Hotel always was good for a team building, especially after like 3 hard weeks. We didn't get much results in New Zealand back in the day, especially if they dragged you down the South Island and then you had to come across the ditch. So yeah, a couple of beach days and a big team building. I absolutely love Sydney. Brisbane, Perth was good for us. Canberra, boys, geez, I ended up in an Irish bar once and then went to the casino.
Oh, O'Malley's.
Never to go back again.
Actually, after the boys came and surprised me when I got back from America, we went to the casino.
Last week, yeah.
Yeah, last week. They all lost.
Well, Gitz couldn't get in. He didn't have his. He didn't have his
No
ID.
idea. They said
didn't
I
think
don't
he was
look
18.
over 18.
That helps.
Gets, are you still playing?
I was. I just came back a week ago from America. Looking, is there anything going in South Africa?
What
is
do you
there?
like? Well, wow.
Are you looking?
We could get you in.
You're always looking at you, Swoop.
Aren't we?
What are you, 42?
Yeah, mate. Let's take this off air, eh?
Kids, just a quick question. I mean, you guys were asking me that Sasha Feinberg and Gomezulu. You got into the Wallaby setup as a youngster. I think you were 19, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's, 20, obviously a little bit older than you. What's it like at that age to be picked in such a crucial position?
Good question. I think the difference is that I didn't start for maybe 18 months, I think. Like there may have been one test here or there in the 2003 World Cup. I think I got an opportunity against Namibia. But we won, I think it was like 144-0, I think. It could still be a record.
Namibia handing out contracts if you want to make a comeback.
They're not with the rand, are they, though? I'm not keen on that.
Ooh, that's
They
it.
picked to the rand.
Yeah, I think...
As long as you don't take the rand out of South Africa, you're fine. If you take the rand to Australia, you're no good.
Oh, that'll be interesting. No, I think the thing for me was I was surrounded by so many legends and guys that have won the World Cup. Similar, I think I had so much time to get to hone in on my craft and play so many different positions. Like I was picked at 9, 10 and 12, but never started in any of them. So I just had an opportunity to learn off these guys and I had a lot more time. So I think for me, I didn't get thrown into the deep end too quickly, which was a massive blessing for me.
Yeah. You guys played Barbarians or Skulk and John, some of you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Was it 2009, I think?
How was that week?
Oof, it's big. It's always big.
Yeah, I
was
think
in London.
Yeah, it was when
we beat
I
the
think
All
it was
Blacks,
George and Skulk. You blokes were the only ones that went 6 days, like every day, didn't you?
Skulk can go
Yeah,
60 days.
no, like Freddie, our producer, asked, do you remember anything of the week? I said, no, I don't even remember the pre-game talk. I was still trying to recover for the game.
I remember the
And
pre-game
then,
talk.
we
Nick
managed
Mallett
to
sprayed
beat
me.
the All Blacks boys at Twickenham.
Yeah.
What did Nick say to you?
He just said, I won't do the accent. He said,
Oh, you can. It was,
You
no,
go.
it wasn't
Go,
Canadian.
go.
It was
Do
good.
the
no,
accent.
so
Please
Nick
do
Mallett
the
was the
accent.
current coach of Italy at the time. Obviously, he's a South African. And so we had a couple of Italian boys on our side. And the jersey presentation before we went out to the game, he was he basically say a little tidbit on every player before they came up and he gave them the jersey. And he was like tearing up with any of the Italian boys and the South Africans. And the Aussies, he was, some of them he was giving a bit of praise. And then when he got to me, he goes, hey, listen, Drew, after the week you have had, if you drop one ball, you're straight off. And I was like, thanks, coach. And then I reckon probably 5 minutes in, Stephen Donald put a high ball up and it came off his shin. It was just moving in the air. And it bounced about 8 metres away from me. And I was like, well, I didn't drop it. I didn't get anywhere near it. And I looked straight up to the coach's box just to see if I was going to get hooked. But anyway, we beat him.
Well, Scully, you talk about not remembering it. I was just pulling back the curtain a touch. When Drew came in this afternoon, we said, oh, a few of you boys played with Scully in the Barbarians. And Drew said, oh, no, I didn't. And then Ollie, our producer, looked at him and went, yeah, there you go, mate. That's you there. That's you standing next to him. That's you.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah. I didn't think we played. I thought we just partied all week.
Was it good?
But how cool is that? How cool is that Barbarians experience as well?
Yeah.
I mean, again, just part of, especially the professional game now. I think the current group of players would get a bit of a taste of more of the amateur era, and maybe even when we were still playing, where there is a big social element to the week. And you get to know guys that you play against every single week. You get to play together, get to know them off the field and actually become mates. So I think it's a fantastic tradition as part of rugby. And if you ever get the opportunity, because it's also the only team, you only play by invite. You can be the best player in the world, but if you never get invited, you'll never play. So
Yeah.
it's so cool.
You boys would have loved those envelopes in pound as well.
Boys of the Barbarians. Like I absolutely love that week. But like, I mean, you go on a stag do for 6 days and you play a test match. You come back to South Africa bloody broken for December.
It's like the World Cup without
The old salmons, Drew.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those sevens, geez, we just had to keep asking Steve Berwick for more.
Yeah, it's a tough warm-up, that one. When you're warming up after being on the drink all week, you're just like, oh.
I think Martin Williams was dry reaching, wasn't he?
Yeah, probably. That was on Tuesday night, though.
Guys, we spoke about, Rassie obviously as an innovative coach. A lot of you guys were coached by Michael Checker. He had some interesting ways of motivating the team, apparently. Tequila, what was it?
Oh, yeah. That was before an All Blacks game. Remember here in Sydney?
Yeah.
It was about a 7 o'clock session. We're about to go out and do our test match Tuesday, where you put on all the tackle suits and you just go out and belt each other. And he just sort of said, look, they just had a way of kind of bringing in something different to make it memorable. Whether it be change a team meeting to the National Museum or something because he was announcing the captain, just so it was something different so that it would resonate and you'd hold on to it a lot more than just being in the same room as you would normally, right? And so anyway, he's like, guys, this is a Bledisloe week. I think it was a Bledisloe week, yeah. And he's like, it's a Bledisloe week. It's different. It's, it's a big part for us. It's a big occasion. And to toast to that big occasion, he's looked like little, takeaway espresso shots over on the table. He's like, everyone go and grab one and don't do anything until you get back. And then he basically made a toast, and it was a tequila shot at 7 a.m. before we go out and absolutely climb into each other. And so that kind of went down a bit rough. But then I was like, oh, mate, reckon I could maybe have another couple more. If I'm going to get through this contact session, I need to be pissed.
Shimmy, have you heard the kidnapping story? The one that, do you know this one that Michael Checker did to these boys?
Yeah,
somebody tell this one.
Well, Swoop, you're involved. We're in France, so you're involved for the whole part of it. Remember
Swoop didn't remember
We've
it all.
spoken about it with Check.
Do you remember it?
Yeah, but not for the Boks Office. They want to hear it.
We're on a different show.
Well, I wasn't. Cheers, Prof. I wasn't necessarily kidnapped. I just got interviewed. So I don't know who was the blokes that actually got kind of rounded up. Shawnee McMahon. Yeah, basically, I think he just wanted to kind of test the group around being interviewed, what you'd give away. Because I think for him it was more about how aligned to the group, and then also for him, which what Drew just spoke about, is creating a shared experience. So he had this way of kind of mixing it up. Can't hear me? He had this way of mixing things up in terms of prep to make it memorable, like Drew said. And I don't know if you can get any more memorable than kidnapping blokes and then interviewing them in an interrogation environment. And there were a lot of blokes like...
Wait, sorry, how were you kidnapped? What do you kidnap?
He had a group of guys that would come and just sort of like say, you got to meet here or whatever, and then they'd just grab you and take you to this dark room. They'd hood you and then go into a dark room, and then all of a sudden they take the hood off, and then there's just a bloke in black just sort of talking to with the camera.
Bright lights in your face. You couldn't see anyone behind, and actually Check was in the back of the room.
Yeah.
His big thing was he wanted to test how strong the group was. So he said, you can't, like the guy interviewing said, you don't say anything, not to tell anyone. And there were maybe 5 or 6 blokes that were interviewed. And until this guy came out
later in a team
meeting, everyone's gone, what? Like no one spoke about it. So it showed that they were
tight.
Yeah, they were pretty tight, and they kept their word.
He'd also sit there and say, the guy doing the interview, he's like, mate, if I went through your phone right now, what would I find? Is there going to be anything incriminating on there that might derail our World Cup campaign? And some blokes went to water going, yeah, you'll find this, you'll find this. and they reckon Cliffy Parley just was like, just deadpan. He said he just didn't give anything away, just nothing.
Scarlett, JDV, how would that have gone back in the day if your coach decided to kidnap you? Would that have worked?
Good luck to
Not good, boy. I would have been coming out fighting whoever the bloody bloke was trying to kidnap me.
The reality in South Africa wouldn't have been part of the strategy for preparation for the World Cup. It would just be reality.
Didn't you blokes all have to get nude and go for a swim or something in one pre-World Cup camp?
Scala's the survivor.
Yeah, I
really enjoyed it.
Of course he'd enjoy getting nude.
I was listening to Ged saying about how comfortable his first 18 months were as a test match flyer. So I was like, you bloody bastard. Mine was not as comfortable.
Why wasn't it comfortable?
Shimmy, thanks.
What'd they do to you?
No, so we it was 5 days. Just got announced as first time 2003 World Cup. And for 5 days, we basically ran through the bush, slept naked, didn't sleep, chucked us in a dam. I had to box Corne Kruger, who at that time was my Stormers captain, Western Province captain.
Didn't eat?
We didn't eat. Yeah, we basically didn't eat for 4 or 5 days. Ran around, jumped out of helicopters, got shot at. What didn't we do? I mean, It was bloody brutal.
Well, you didn't
if
make the semis,
to
that's
that
for
World
sure.
Cup in 83, we had no chance. We had no chance of winning the World Cup. But like if it was a triathlon, we would have come first easily.
You could have won Survivor.
Guys, British and Irish Lions coming next year. Your thoughts? You guys worried? Is there enough time? Is the runway long enough for Australia to rebuild?
I think so. Yeah, I think the fact that we've gone back to 4 teams, we saw a lot better success in our Super Rugby competition this year with the provincial teams in relation to previous years and the success against the Kiwis. I think the fact that a lot of teams have been bolstered by, I guess, the depletion of the Rebels. I'd like to think that, well, I'm confident the fact that our Super Rugby teams will do better next year, which will transfer in terms of, you know, performance and confidence into the British and Irish Lions. I know, you know, we all believe in Joe Smith. I think he's a brilliant operator. And I back him to put the guys in the best shape possible to compete. You know, of course, it's an exciting time for everyone involved, not just the players that get to experience that once every 12 years, but also the supporters. I think with the energy and the hype and the build-up, I think the boys will do a really good job and will compete. Look, I'm not going to predict scores. I'm certainly not going to back against us, but I think we're going to be there to compete. And also, I think the performances moving forward in this back end of the Rugby Championships, that will give us a bit of an indication, but also a benchmark on what we need to work on going into next year. And I know Joe will have a big influence on the players that he has cited for the Lions. I think there'll be, you know, a good connection around the Super Rugby season next year leading into the Lions. So they'll have, you know, more alignment. They'll have more of a cohesion. And it won't be such a sharp start like it is this year.
I want to ask Sculler and JDV, like, I did an interview with Willie Gagnier once, and he was saying that the British and Irish Lions, to him, felt bigger than a World Cup final that he played in. What was your experience for the British and Irish Lions? Is it like, because I didn't get the opportunity to compete. Swoop's the only one here that actually got to play in a series. How was it for you fellas?
Yeah, it was bloody enormous. Like, I think the whole build-up, because we wanted in 07 the World Cup, and then, you know, 09 was the Lions, so it's similar to the one in 19 and in the COVID Lions. Like, there was such a big thing by the media, and I think the biggest hype comes from the European media that comes down to South Africa and all the supporters. You know, like we had, you know, as much Lions supporters in that series that we had South Africans down here. So, like, and you know, you've got one shot as a player at it. You know, at a World Cup, maybe, you know, if you're lucky, we can fit a few in. But because it only comes around every 12 years, I think it's only Georgie Smith who did a couple of them.
And Morné Steyn.
You know, so you've got one shot at it. Like, you played forever and you missed out on playing the Lions. So you really want to, you know, have that one go your way. You know, and then ours was fiercely competitive and physical, that second test match in Pretoria. Our test match was one of the greats. You know, ended up with Morné Steyn saving my bacon, but also winning the test series with like a goal kick from his own 10 yards. So the intensity around those games were just next level. And unfortunately, the one after that was also so intense. You're more famous for Rusty's video. But like, there was no crowds, unfortunately. It was during COVID.
It really is the reality of a Lions series that, I mean, kids, what, you've been playing professional rugby now for 30 years, and still not
Going to Namibia next.
in a Lions series. Yeah, Namibia, unfortunately, they don't play against the Lions, but like, you have, again, greats of the game that never get the opportunity to play in a Lions series. And like Skalk said, World Cup is every 4 years, and sometimes you're injured. You know, then hopefully
John was injured every World Cup.
The opportunity of following World Cup, but the Lions series is so special for the fact that it's you only get the opportunity once every 12 years, and I think there's a learning for rugby and I suppose world rugby in that the demand is so big because there's not a lot of opportunity to do it. Whereas I think we full weekends every single time. We think that the more rugby we have, the better the product will be, but actually. Yeah. You know, the less there is, the more it creates more value to play.
Boys, I was playing for Saracens when the Lions team got announced to go to New Zealand, the previous one to New Zealand. And it was before afternoon training, but they already had, like, you know, say 3 pints lined up, and we were at 4 players. And the celebration in that Saracens camp, watching the live team announcement, I mean, it was the biggest thing for those players. So for the European players to come down and play a Lions tour, it's like the biggest thing they can achieve in rugby in the Northern Hemisphere. And each player then, we had 4 of them, down 3 beers before afternoon, test match Tuesday session. Some of them handled it quite well. Some of them, like Maro Itoje, battled a bit with his line-out catching in the afternoon.
I think importantly for us going into next year is we've got a Grand Slam tour in November, so we're playing each of the home nations, England, Ireland, Scotland, Wales in November. So whilst it's obviously not a combined team on those occasions, we're going to be facing some of like what we spoke about in part 1 of this collaboration is that they're going to get some pictures with, just how the European teams and the UK sides play. So we'll get a bit of familiarity through that tour, and also just a bit of an understanding with where we're at. Obviously, they then got to combine their powers and then pick a Lions team. But I think it's good for us moving into next year's Lions series that we do have a Grand Slam tour at the end of this year.
I was just going to say, boys, obviously we're saying how we think we will go. How do you think Australia will go against the Lions?
Look, it depends on the growth of the team. I still think, obviously we haven't watched a lot of Super Rugby, but who's going to come and bring that hard edge when the Lions come at you in terms of that toughness? I think Australia will always be smart. I think Joe Schmidt's a good coach. You can see what he's done. For me, it's when it goes into the trenches. Who's going to stand up from an Australian point of view? You got Tanya Latupo. I think Bell can possibly be one of the great loose heads in world rugby. Do you bring a Will Skelton back? Yeah. For me, that's that tight five, because what the Lions can do is they can suffocate and strangle you just with their pack and a good 9 and 10. And that's test match rugby for you. So who's going to bring the toughness out? Who's going to come out swinging when it gets hard? And that's where Australia need to get that right.
You guys obviously in more recent years starting to pick more players from abroad. Do you think that's maybe something that we need to look at?
We've done it for the last 8 years.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean. But but you were a few years ahead of us in terms of you started only picking a couple, but then it's certainly opened up, right? So we're at that point now where we've got the Giddo law, and it's there's only a certain amount that are allowed. There's a bit of almost a hesitation. Joe Schmidt's sort of saying his preference is going to be home-based players. But from an outside looking into Rugby Australia, do you think we should open it up and just not have these sort of caps that we impose on ourselves to pick from players overseas?
I think so. I think it's pretty cool to have a law named after yourself.
That's quite cool, actually. The Shimmy law.
Yeah, but the where Australian rugby is at, I think you need to be able to use all the resources you have available to you to be able to pick the strongest team available. And if that includes players based overseas, then you do that. If there's a tight call between a guy based overseas and a guy based in Australia, then obviously you pick the guy in Australia. But I think for now, where Australia is at, you need to start winning. You need to start get results, and by doing that, you select the best players all over the world. There's a big responsibility in still improving and growing the game in Australia as well, and trying to keep as much as possible in Australia. But what we've seen in South Africa now as well, guys go overseas and then they come back. Because at the end of the day, you want to be at home as well. The experience that those guys bring back home is just as valuable for the national team. So you shouldn't see it as just losing players when they go overseas, and when they're good enough, I believe that they should still be selected.
Yeah, I guess the tricky part is, like, if you look at the Australian system, is you lose control of your senior players, and I think that's why the Boks really function well at World Cups, because World Cups, they get released for 6 months from the clubs, and for that 6 months, the Boks stick together. In between that, it's quite tricky with the window opening up. Like, the players can only join the camp on the Sunday before a test match, only train on the Monday before the following test match. So you lose control of your senior players, but I think in our case, we've got such depth and talent and player reserves within South Africa, and the fact that we moved to the north, the URC, I think it's a competition that, like, sort of suits our current player core within South Africa, the players who are based here. It's not like an old Super 12 where I think that was the most intense competition I ever played in, and we needed our best players to be based in South Africa. URC bar the Irish sides and some of the Scottish sides, I think, like, we're good enough to compete week in, week out there, whether we've got a top box or not. So I think it's tricky to manage your squad. But, like, in South Africa, you also can't stop a good player from earning his potential. And obviously, with the Rand being quite a weak currency, that plays a role in it. But I think for us as South Africa, we've seen a lot of young players get developed up north, and then they come back to play for South Africa at a later age. a guy like Jasper Wiese left South Africa early on, straight after, getting scouted as a youngster. So they're doing a lot of our rugby development for young players who come back better players after being exposed to playing and fighting their way through the Northern Hemisphere.
Guys, quick one. Predictions for this. Thanks, Skylar. Predictions for this weekend?
Australia by 8.
Both games. Australia by 8.
I'm going to stick with that one. I had a feeling last week. It didn't come true. Gee, I copped some shit from the South Africans. Oh, they come out in numbers afterwards. Oh, online.
Yeah, your supporters are pretty brutal online.
I like it, though. I don't mind. Keep coming at me.
No, I like it too.
So Australia by 8.
Australia by 8, and then I'm going to go New Zealand. I think they'll 13.
Okay.
I'm going Aussies by 2. It's going to be tight.
Yeah.
And I don't see the All Blacks losing. I can't remember the last time they lost back-to-back. So I'm actually going to go a little bit larger than that. New Zealand by 21.
Wow.
It's a biggie.
Goodness me.
Fellas, I'm not going to go the Boks. And also, because Shimmy's giving me the heads up, he thinks there's going to be a number of changes, maybe going with a bit of a mindset that this could be a bit of a cakewalk for them. So Australia to turn it around.
Hold on, I never said they're going to make changes. I think it's an
but
opportune time to make changes.
Yeah, but you wouldn't be surprised if there were a number of changes. But then actually, you then said it was Lucanio Am. I'm like, I don't know if the changes are actually making things easier or not.
Okay, Snellman might be okay. Might be, So
yeah. I'm gonna pick Australia, and it doesn't matter by how many. One will do. And I also think New Zealand, not just back to back, but going back to Eden Park. I think is going to be big for them, and and to your point as well, I think they adapt really quickly, and they'll look at some of those things, and also what Sculler said, for the most part they were in control of that game. So I'm going to pick New Zealand to win by say 12.
Prof, your prediction?
Shimmy, on our show, they've all decided that my opinion doesn't matter.
We did not say that.
He's a group.
Said it doesn't count.
Okay, Wallabies by 35, and the Los Pumas.
You want online abuse?
Los Pumas by 30 this week. They'll kill them. Auckland, All Blacks are hopeless. Go on.
Skylar, Jean, your predictions?
In Perth, I've still got to back the Boks. We don't actually go well in the second dig. Like if you think about our Irish Test match, a Wales Test match, our Test series against New Zealand, where Nelspruit or Mumbombela, we won comfortably, lost in Ellis Park. So I think it's going to be tighter this weekend. I also think we will make a few changes, because I just think that's Rusty's mentality about this game. But I've got the Boks a little bit closer than last week, so I say 10 points, 10 or less. And then in New Zealand, I would go for the All Blacks, but only just less than 5.
I was also Boks by 10. And I actually think if we do change it up a bit, that might actually work in our favour, just because of the competition within that squad, and there's actually not too much between a lot of the players. So I think it might revitalise the team, if anything. So I also go Boks by 10 and New Zealand by 15.
Okay, that's pretty accurate, guys. Just to lighten it up a bit, we'll talk about the Australian heydays when you guys were winning.
Okay.
We've got a couple of clips, apparently. So we'll have a look at the Australian try versus Fiji. I think it's meant to play at just behind you guys.
Just here, Shimmy. Tommy takes care of this sort of stuff for us.
Come on, Tommy.
Yeah.
Is that Stephen Hoyles?
Yeah, Halsey back into Goy.
To Goy.
Then to you, Swoop. You didn't have the legs, so you had to give it to me.
Selfless.
Jeez,
I was rocking the skull
Is
haircut
that you
back
then? Is that you?
Yeah, that was back when I had long, straight, peroxided hair. You were rocking something like that when you first started, Sculler.
I had proper long dyed hair back in the day, pulling off the surfer vibe. It didn't really work my way, did it?
Kids, I was going to ask Kids about the gloves. Was he wearing gloves? Did those gloves help at all?
Right, so
The only gloves he wears.
Hold on. John de Villiers was ambassador for some gloves here too.
Do those gloves help?
no. So when I first came in, like Wendell Saylor, Sterling Moore, like all the big dogs, even Stephen Larkham, I think, had them
Let's
on.
play the clip actually now with the Australian players wearing the gloves.
Does it slip out of my hands, does it? Yeah, right, that Heggy is
The
huge.
scrum
isn't
cap's
it?
too big.
Yeah.
Yeah, Georgie Smith.
Couldn't afford to get it fitted at that stage. Yeah, so the whole theory, they were around and they were handing them out. I didn't have a great contract, so I was like, oh, I'll take these gloves. I can wear them out. I can do whatever with them. But there was one game we were playing, I think, the Highlanders in Canberra, and it was quite a cold, dewy night, and I went to pass the ball and it slipped out of my hands, and I was like, this shouldn't happen. I'm wearing the gloves. So then from then on, I never wore them again.
Jean Scala, any time, did you guys ever wear gloves?
I wore gloves for my first test match versus France for the full 7 minutes that I played. Never touched the ball.
That's quite long for you.
Never played. Yeah, never played with gloves again. I would like to hear Shimmy. So we always hear this story from Brian Abana at Toulon. I would love the lads just to give us their best story on Abana, because there must be many.
Oof. Gee, your best one. They're all pretty ordinary, most of the stories with Hansy.
The great Brian. You got to say the great Brian.
Oh, is that what he likes to be called?
You can't say Brian Abana. You got to say the great Brian Abana.
The great smoke bomber as well.
But he's not great in Australia. He's only in South Africa.
Before we were going over, because Brian and I went at the same time, and obviously, Brian being a winger, I'm a winger. We're both 11 at the time. But I was sort of texting Brian. I was like, "Hey mate, like, what are you thinking? You think you're going to, you think you're going to Toulon or whatever?" And he was sort of like, we were just back and forth in conversation, but he'd always sign off the text message as BH11. And I was like,
I guess I'm 14.
Fuck off, mate. So I was taking the piss. I'd start signing off DM11. And then during our time there, well, I was there 4 years. I think Brian was there also for the same 4 years. He was wearing 11. I went to 14. But as it sort of played out, because I was a left footer and having a left foot option to kick, towards, I think, the last season, I started playing 11. He was 14. But he would go to the gear man and say, oh, look, just make sure that I'm still wearing 11. I'll play on the right wing, but I'll wear 11. And then I'd go up to the gear guy, say, mate, what's going on here? He goes, well, Brian wants to wear 11. I said, well, I don't care. I'm on the left. I'm wearing 11. And I didn't care about it, but I just cared because he cared so much.
He cared a lot for that GoPro too. I mean, you guys played with him. And for a bloke who was on the other side of the lens, he carried that thing fucking everywhere.
Yeah.
Did he end up playing with it? I'm not too sure.
And I love Brian every time on the GoPro. The big like mouth open smile.
You really gave that a good run. I hope he's getting a fair bit of cash for that, because
Brian gets cash for everything.
Yeah,
guys, the guys that played at Toulon, one last thing, just replicate Joe Fanico's best team talk.
First thing in the morning, you're feeling tired at 7 a.m. He goes, yes, but come here, face. He used to call me face for whatever reason.
Legend face.
It escalated if you'd had a few beers. Legend, awesome face, or whatever. But we come in and
he's
big,
one of the great
hugs.
huggers.
Oh,
he's got a great.
He makes
hug.
you feel good. You're ready to train. He's one of the great fellas now, and I love watching anything he does on Instagram now. He's the healing master.
He used to be a little bit more liberal with his drinking when we first got to Toulon. I think now he's Jungle Joe and he's sort of not so much about that life.
Yeah, he's holistic.
But yeah, there was a couple of like even rev ups on the train on the way home from Paris. He'd just be walking up and down the aisle. Like, I mean, I wouldn't do it justice to try and replicate it, but he just his energy is just a different level, Joe Van Niekerk. And you see how much he's appreciated by the Toulon crowd. Like even now they still call him Captain Joe. He runs out. We were over there.
He still did that,
a year or so ago. He went back for the Hall of Fame dinner and he ran out just like he used to and just like beating his chest. And they just love him. Like he's just honestly one of the greatest blokes to the energy that he's got to play with. Yeah.
Prof, do you want to sign us off there on behalf of the Coco Show?
You want us to finish off here?
Yeah, let's wrap it up here. We could be here all day.
Wrap it up. Right.
He's got to get a flight.
You've got to get a flight. You've got to head across to Perth.
Yeah.
Right. So that was...
Wait. Don't be worried if you miss your flight. Don't be worried about miss your flight.
We can go out.
Drew and I are available tonight.
Shimmy, have you heard about Holiday Swoop?
And
No.
No. It's corporate soup during the week.
Oh, sorry, corporate swoop. Avoid it. Shimmy is the end of that. Right. Okay. So that is the end of part 2. That is the end of the Coco/Boks Office collab. It is a remarkable day. People said it would never happen. It has. We have changed the world of rugby podcasts forever. I hope it happens again. Shimmy, can you give me a guarantee it'll happen again?
It will happen again, definitely. But this time, you guys must come to South Africa.
Oh,
we would
We'll
love
come here
to
for the
do
Lions.
that.
We'll come here for the Lions, and I think the All Blacks are touring the year after. You guys come over for that.
Let's do it. Yeah, well, rugby can fund it easy.
Yeah.
Talk to them, Shimmy.
What's your guys' sign off again?
Was that the end just then? You've gone early.
What are the box office? What do you guys
We'll just
do?
say the box office is now closed.
Oh, I like that. So do we Drew Coco's into your closer?
Yes, let's do that.
Okay.
I like that.
3, 2, 1. Drew.
Cuckoo! I've got to go there.
Yeah, then
the
you-
box.
Let's go again.
Wait,
Sorry.
hold on. Skylar and Joanna got to do that first. Hold on. I'll do it last.
Okay.
Oh, do,
Okay,
do you all say it?
Okay?
You all say it together?
No, I just said.
You just
But they
said-
got to do the cuckoo.
All right.
love
The
that.
boys do
Yeah.
the cuckoo.
Very good, Drew. Cuckoo. And time to sign off.
Cuckoo.
Shimon.
No, you go, isn't it?
The box office is now closed.
Thank you very much. That's it, guys. See you for the next episode. I'll be back in Cape Town. Gentlemen, thank you very much. It's been special. We'll do this again some other time.
Absolutely.
Cheers,
Thank you,
guys.
mate. Travel safe.
Thanks, boys.
Thanks, boys. Thanks for getting up so
Thanks,
early.
boys. Thank you.